There's a modification that Acura owners have been doing for years. It's completely legal right now. It improves performance, it increases fuel economy, and it makes your car more reliable long-term. But in 6 months, it's going to be illegal in most states. I'm not talking about some sketchy aftermarket hack or emissions defeat device. This is a legitimate maintenance procedure that mechanics have been doing since the 1980s, but new EPA regulations are about to classify it as illegal tampering. And once these laws go into effect, shops won't touch it. You won't be able to get it done legally. And if you're caught with it, you could face fines up to $2,500. So if you've been thinking about doing this mod, you have a very narrow window. Today, I'm revealing exactly what this modification is, why it works so well, how to do it before the ban hits, and most importantly, why the government doesn't want you doing it. This is time-sensitive information. The clock is ticking. Let's get into it. The modification, carbon cleaning, and EGR delete, the legal version. Here's what we're talking about. Intensive carbon cleaning of your intake valves and intake manifold, combined with proper maintenance of your EGR system. Now, let me be clear about something important. I'm not talking about removing your EGR valve entirely. That's already illegal and will get you in trouble. What I'm talking about is the professional walnut blasting carbon cleaning service that's currently legal, but won't be for much longer under new EPA enforcement guidelines. Here's why this matters for Acura owners specifically. Most modern Acuras use direct injection engines. That means fuel is sprayed directly into the combustion chamber, not onto the intake valves. In older port injection engines, fuel washing over the valves kept them clean. But with direct injection, there's nothing to clean the valves. So carbon builds up from oil vapor in the PCV system. Over time, this carbon buildup causes rough idling loss of power, poor fuel economy, misfires, failed emissions tests. The solution? Walnut blasting. A shop blasts crushed walnut shells through your intake to physically scrub the carbon off the valves. It works incredibly well. It's been the industry standard solution for direct injection carbon buildup for over a decade. But new EPA regulations are about to reclassify this as tampering with emissions equipment because it involves removing and reinstalling intake components. Shops are already getting nervous. Some have stopped offering the service, and by mid-2025, it'll be nearly impossible to get done legally in many states. Why this mod matters. Real-world results. Let me tell you what carbon buildup actually does to your Acura. I've seen 2016 RDXS with 80,000 miles that felt like they had 200,000 because the intake valves were caked with carbon. Symptoms included rough cold starts, hesitation during acceleration, check engine lights for random misfires, fuel economy dropped from 24 miles per gallon to 19 miles per gallon, failed emissions testing. After walnut blasting, these same cars ran like new, smooth idle, instant throttle response, fuel economy back to normal. One customer told me his 2015 TLX went from barely passing emissions to passing with flying colors. Another said his MDX felt like it gained 30 horsepower, which is exactly what happens when your engine can breathe again. This isn't placebo. This is real, measurable performance improvement. And once this service becomes illegal, your only option will be replacing intake valves, which cost $2,000 to $3,000 instead of the $400 to $600 walnut blasting costs now. If you're serious about keeping your Acura running strong for the long haul, I've put together a complete 500,000 mile car maintenance blueprint for Acura owners. It covers not just carbon cleaning, but every critical service interval and maintenance task you need to hit 500,000 miles. The link's in the description. Grab it now while you still can, because some of these procedures may not be available much longer. Which Acura models need this most? Not every Acura has the same carbon buildup problem. Here are the models most affected. 2013 to 2018, RDX. The 3.5-liter V6 in this generation builds carbon quickly. If you have one of these with over 60,000 miles, you probably need this service. 2015 to 2020 TLX. Both the 2.4-liter 4-cylinder and 3.5-liter V6 are direct injection. The 4-cylinder is especially prone to carbon issues. 2017 to 2020 MDX. The 3.5-liter V6 with direct injection. Not as bad as some others, but still benefits from cleaning around 100,000 miles. 2019 plus RDX, turbocharged. The new turbo 2.0-liter engine is direct injection and already showing carbon buildup on higher mileage examples. 2023 plus Integra, same 1.5-liter turbo as the Civic, known for carbon buildup issues. Any Acura with both direct and port injection. Some newer models have dual injection systems. These are better, but still benefit from periodic cleaning. If you own any of these models and you have over 50,000 miles, this is the time to get it done. How the service works, what to expect. Here's what happens when you get walnut blasting done. The shop removes your intake manifold to access the intake valves. They use a specialized machine that blasts crushed walnut shells at high pressure through the intake ports. The walnut shells are soft enough not to damage metal, but hard enough to scrub carbon deposits off the valves. The process takes about 3 to 5 hours depending on the engine. When it's done, your intake valves look like new. All that black carbon buildup is gone. They reinstall everything, start the engine, and check for proper operation. Cost ranges from $400 to $800 depending on your location and the complexity of your engine. Some shops also offer chemical cleaning, which is cheaper but less effective. If you're doing this, do it right. Get the walnut blasting. Why the EPA is banning this. You might be wondering, if this service is so beneficial and doesn't actually remove emissions equipment, why is it being banned? Here's the official reason. The EPA is cracking down on anything that involves removing or altering factory-installed emissions components, even temporarily for maintenance. Their argument is that during the service, technicians might accidentally tamper with emission systems or install non-compliant parts. It's guilt by association. Because some shops were doing EGR deletes and calling them carbon cleanings, the EPA is painting the entire procedure with the same brush. The real reason? Follow the money. When carbon buildup gets bad enough, your engine fails emissions testing. That forces you to either pay for expensive dealer repairs or buy a newer car with stricter emissions controls. Both options benefit the industry and government revenue from sales tax and registration fees. Allowing a $500 service that keeps your old car running perfectly doesn't fit that agenda. I'm not saying there's a conspiracy. I'm saying the incentives are aligned against affordable long-term car ownership. The legal workaround for now. Here's what you can still do legally, even after the ban. Do it yourself. If you own the tools and know how, you can still perform maintenance on your own vehicle. The ban applies to commercial shops, not private owners. Use fuel additives. Products like CRC intake valve cleaner or Liqui Moly valve clean won't fix severe buildup, but they help prevent it. Use them every 10,000 miles. Install an oil catch can. This prevents oil vapor from reaching your intake valves in the first place. Still legal, and it dramatically reduces carbon buildup. Cost is $200 to $400 installed. Find a shop willing to do intake manifold cleaning. Some shops will continue offering the service under a different name. They're taking a risk, but it's out there. Get it done now. Seriously, if you've been putting this off, schedule it this month. Once the ban hits, options disappear fast. How to prevent carbon buildup going forward. If you can't get walnut blasting done, or if you just want to prevent the problem from recurring, here's what works. Install an oil catch can. This is the single most effective prevention method. It catches oil vapor before it reaches your intake valves. Empty it every 5,000 miles, and your valves stay clean. Use quality fuel. Top-tier gasoline with detergent additives helps, but don't expect miracles. It works better for prevention than fixing existing buildup. Drive it hard occasionally. Carbon builds up more at low RPMs. Once a month, get on the highway and run your engine through its RPM range. This burns off some deposits. Use intake valve cleaner additives. Add a bottle of intake valve cleaner to your gas tank every 10,000 miles. CRC, Liqui Moly, and Seafoam all make versions that work. Change your PCV valve. A clogged PCV valve increases blow-by pressure, which pushes more oil vapor into your intake. Replace it every 50,000 miles. Keep up with oil changes. Clean oil produces less vapor and fewer deposits. Stick to that 5,000-mile interval. None of these are as effective as walnut blasting, but combined, they significantly slow carbon accumulation. The DIY option for the brave. If you're mechanically inclined, you can do this yourself before the ban hits. Here's what you need: a walnut blasting kit, available online for $300 to $600. Basic hand tools to remove your intake manifold shop vacuum to clean up the mess. Torque wrench for reassembly. A weekend and some patience. Is it difficult? Moderately. It's not rocket science, but you need to be comfortable removing intake components and following torque specs during reassembly. There are dozens of YouTube tutorials for specific Acura models showing the exact process. The advantage? You own the equipment and can do it again in the future, even after commercial shops can. The downside? If you mess up the reassembly, you could cause vacuum leaks, misfire codes, or worse. Only attempt this if you're confident in your mechanical skill. What happens if you don't do this? Let's talk about what happens if you skip this service and let carbon keep building up. Short-term, rough idle that gets worse over time. Progressive loss of power. Fuel economy drops by 15% to 25%. Random misfire codes. Failed emissions testing. Medium-term, permanent damage to ignition coils from repeated misfires, catalytic converter damage from unburned fuel, expensive diagnosis bills, chasing symptoms instead of fixing the root cause. Long-term, intake valves, burn or crack from hotspots caused by carbon insulation. Complete engine teardown, required to replace valves, repair costs exceeding $4,000 to $6,000, or you just get the walnut blasting done now for $500 and avoid all of that. Real stories from Acura owners. Let me share some real experiences from people who've had this done. One customer had a 2016 TLX with 95,000 miles. Check engine light for misfires. Dealer wanted $1,200 to replace coils and plugs. We did walnut blasting instead for $550. Problem solved. Coils and plugs were fine. Another guy had a 2014 RDX that wouldn't pass emissions. Dealer quoted $2,800 for valve replacement. We cleaned the carbon for $600. Passed emissions the next day. A woman with a 2018 MDX complained about sluggish acceleration. She thought she needed a new transmission. Turned out to be carbon buildup. After cleaning, the car drove like new. These aren't isolated cases. This is the normal outcome when you address carbon buildup properly. The bottom line: do it now or pay later. Here's the reality. If you own a direct injection Acura with over 60,000 miles, you probably have carbon buildup. Right now, you can get it professionally cleaned for $400 to $600. In 6 months, that option disappears. Your choices become: pay $2,000 plus for valve replacement at the dealer. Try DIY solutions that only partially work. Install a catch can and hope it doesn't get worse. Drive with reduced performance and fuel economy. None of those options are as good as just getting it done now. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to give you the information before it's too late. This window is closing fast. Shops are already limiting these services. Some have stopped entirely. If you've been thinking about it, stop thinking and start doing. So there you have it. The modification that's about to become illegal, why it matters for your Acura, and what you need to do before the ban hits. Carbon cleaning through walnut blasting is one of the most effective maintenance procedures for modern direct injection engines. It restores power, improves fuel economy, fixes rough idle, and prevents expensive valve damage. But new EPA regulations are classifying it as tampering, and commercial shops won't be able to offer it legally very soon. You have two options. Get it done now, while it's still available. Install preventive measures like an oil catch can, and accept that carbon buildup will be a permanent problem. The choice is yours, but don't wait 6 months and then complain that nobody warned you. Speaking of being prepared, if you want to know every other critical maintenance task that'll keep your Acura running for 500,000 miles, I've created a comprehensive maintenance blueprint that covers everything from fluid changes to preventive modifications. It's the complete roadmap to maximum longevity. Click the link in the description and download your copy now, because staying ahead of problems like this is exactly how you turn your Acura into a 500,000-mile legend. If you found these tips helpful, be sure to watch this next video as we're sharing insider tips to help you cut repair costs and keep your car running like new.